Find that confidence to change the flight of the putt, and then training some long distance putts. Do all of the work. Do all of the work. Do all of the work. Of the work. Let's wait. Do all of the work. What is up, YouTube fam? Robbie C here. Today we are out at Veterans Park Disc Golf Course located in Alabaster, Alabama. This course has a lot of pitch and putt vibes, which if you're not familiar means that the holes are generally on the shorter end of things. This makes the course extremely beginner friendly, and for more experienced players it's going to make it extremely scoreable. Last week we wrapped up a series on distance, and I feel it's only appropriate to head back to the basket, but I want to go over something that I'm pretty confident I've never seen anyone do a video on when it comes to putting. What putter are you using? When it comes to pitch and putt courses, we can think that with shorter distances that our shots need to be dialed and we're going to be parking it next to the basket every single time. But that is a lot of pressure to be putting on ourselves. So whether you're a beginner all the way to an advanced player, we need to make sure that our putting is on. Hopefully we're able to land within some sort of a putt on every single basket that we're playing for the course. And that is where choosing the right putter for the situation is going to make all of the difference between scoring well and walking away frustrated that you scored this at this course. Let me know in the comments below what course that is for you. Now, when it comes to putting putters, I like to have the same putter for circle 1 and circle 2. I want something that's relatively neutral so that I can throw it on a straight line, get lucky if it hits the front of the cage, and know that it's just going to follow the power and spin that I put on the disc. And if we're being honest, it all comes down to personal preference. Now, there are a lot of thoughts on how you choose your putting putter, and I even put out a video on my own channel on how you should choose that putting putter, because most putters inside the circle are going to fly the exact same. Circle 2 is where things start to change. Once we get to circle 2, you're going to start noticing a difference in flight of your putters. Traditionally, where you'll see this is if you have a brand new putter of, say, a mold that you've been using regularly for a little bit, and you might see it sort of coming in and crashing before it gets to the target because it's still a little fresh. Part of that is time and getting the disc beat in. And I love the conversation that was going on in the Birdie fam about this exact thing, where one of our members was talking about that he cycles his putting putters around through his practice putting set so that they get past that brand new fresh state and get a little more seasoned, and then eventually he'll cycle those into his bag. Now, being honest, the pro who inspired this entire video is Nate Sexton, who whenever he finds himself with longer putts or when he needs a little extra oomph on the putt, he switches from putting with fireflies up to a dart, and he has made a lot of putts with a dart. So I thought, when you find yourself in different circumstances or longer distance putt, rather than changing your putt to fit the circumstance, you try to keep your stroke as normal as possible, and you change what you're putting with to try to let the putter do all of the work. Now, my two special circumstance putters that I keep in the bag are this really beat-in pig, aka my precious child, because after all, pig is love, pig is life, as well as a polecat. I used to have a DX polecat in the bag, but this Halo polecat is beating in pretty fast, which takes me to a major point of having this special type of putter. You've heard me talk on the channel a lot about subconscious confidence, which is when your hand grabs a mold that you're familiar with, there is an extra level of excitement or comfort because you've thrown this mold a lot. It's why I recommend having as few molds as possible and keeping those molds in a variety of different plastics and stages of wear and tear. With that being said, neither of these discs are in my bag simply to be used on weird circumstance putts. If you play a round with me, there's a high chance that you're going to see both of these thrown off of the tee box. The 1-2 punch of the pig and the polecat for me is part of the reason why I feel incredibly dangerous from short distance, because between these two molds, I really feel like there are very few holes or shots that I don't have. So I want to take a quick minute to talk about how I use these for putting and what special circumstances I use them for, so that maybe you can get some ideas on a special putter or thing you can use for your rounds as well. Let's start with the polecat. When it comes to putting, my traditional miss is getting low of the basket. It's as if my my putt comes up and stays on a straight line most often. If I'm going to miss, it's not going to be left or right. It's that I didn't give it enough power or height to get into the chains. Now that's something I actively work on when I'm on flat ground putts, but being below the basket on uphill putts, my weakness is highlighted even more because on an uphill putt, I need to be giving my putt even more height than normal. When I find myself super far below the basket, I'm able to use the extra glide of the polecat to give some extra oomph onto the disc, which gives it that additional height that I usually struggle with on my putt. The neutrality or dead straight action of the polecat also means that I can give it additional power without really worrying about it moving off to the right or left, which translates to me being able to keep as close to a normal putt as possible and simply letting the polecat make up the difference. Another perk of using the polecat is that it's going to hold its line pretty straight, like I said before, even if you put power on it. So in wooded corridors where there are trees to hit or ceilings that I have to contend with, I can trust that if I put the polecat on the right line, it's going to follow it pretty straight for most of its flight. But even with that extra glide, it's important that we talk about the weakness of putting with a polecat. This thing is a 1-speed. So similar to the Berg, when it runs out of power, it just falls out of the sky. It doesn't want to go extra far or glide extra far. It goes exactly how far you put it with the amount of power that you put on it. And when I'm not feeling confident, I'm usually not putting enough power on my normal putter, much less when I switch to something for special circumstances. Now the pig I use for 2 circumstances as well, and the first is exactly this, when obstacles are in the way. The goal of my putt is for it to come out as flat as possible. This means that the disc is going to fold into the chains and have a pretty soft landing if I do happen to miss, and it's not going to roll very far away from the basket because it didn't come in on a steep amount of hyzer. So when a tree finds itself in my way or an obstacle is in my way, that means that I have to change my putt to put more hyzer on it, which enables that rollaway potential that I totally don't love. Rather than hoping that the disc has enough to get to the basket, I can let the overstability of the pig try to let the disc just fall into the basket. Well, at least have a better chance than the EMAG judges did. Now it's important to note that this pig is my precious child because it flies a lot less overstable than a traditional pig. But it not being super overstable is actually what makes it very useful for these special circumstance putts. If I were to try to putt from distance with a normal pig, it wants to fall out of the sky pretty hard, which can be somewhat hard to aim and also means that rollaway potential increases dramatically because it's going to come in on a much steeper hyzer. The precious child doesn't do this, and I'm going to make sure that I'm not aiming like I would a traditional putt. I'm going to take something from ball golf, which is aiming a cup or two to the right of the basket and letting the ball sort of curve in. I like to think of my aiming point like a knight in a game of chess. My traditional aiming point on the basket is I take the middle chain, go 1 to the right and 3 chain lengths down. But rather than focusing on how the disc is going to curve into the basket, I just simply aim for my traditional aiming point on a basket that is 1 basket to the right and another basket tall. This allows me to not change my normal focus point on a target as well as not change what feels like my normal stroke and allow the disc to correct and fall into the basket from range. And of course, we can't talk about aiming and putting without talking about today's video sponsor, Discdot. Discdot is my favorite tool on the entire market when it comes to gaining confidence and repeatability in your putt. Working with your dots in your practice putting routine is going to teach your body and your mind what it feels like to throw the putt that you're looking for on the basket. For instance, when I'm working on my polecat putts from downtown and downhill, it allows me to shift that focus point to a higher chain length, allowing me to focus on that higher point when I find myself in those tricky scenarios. Now, I've heard people say, why would I get a Discdot when I can just use tape to make the same thing happen? First, I don't like getting my chains all sticky from wrapping tape around them. Second, it's not as easy to move the tape as it is to move the dot. And third, Discdots just look better, are a higher quality, and you can buy Tour Series ones to support your favorite pros. So really, it's just a win overall. So if you want to check out this amazing tool, make sure you head over to disc.usa.com and use code RCDiscgolf at check out to save yourself a little bit of money. Grab your dots, head out to the practice green, and it's as easy as focus, putt, and repeat. Now, I do want to make two important notes though when it comes to this video overall. The first is that just by changing putters to quote special circumstances doesn't mean that you're automatically going to start banging putts from super far range or anything like that. You need to work on your putting close before you start working on those special circumstances anyways. The goal of all of this is to help you be able to use your normal putting stroke from different situations, and the disc is going to help correct your obvious weaknesses in those situations by highlighting the strength of your normal putting stroke. So if you're not great at putting to begin with, the only way to get better is to practice, and that's okay. It takes time, and we all need to keep working on our putting practice. And the second warning comes from having a conversation with my coach, Mike Strauss, who on all of his putts, no matter the circumstances, special or not, uses his Luna to make it work. Which is totally fair, and there's something to be said about learning to use the same tool for all sorts of circumstances so that you don't have to make extra decisions such as, do I feel comfortable with my normal putter here? Do I need the extra distance of the polecat float? Because as someone who's gaining confidence with using those special putters, it definitely creates more decisions to be made while you're out there on the course. So my number one tip to counter that would be, whatever you're most confident with in that moment, step up and use it. Unfortunately, as a disc golfer, you're going to have the rest of your life to live in the regret of what you could have and should have done during a round to achieve that -18 that was apparently right in front of you there. But the difference between Mike and 95% of the people who watch these videos is that Mike has developed a toolbox of different putts and techniques and skills that he is totally confident in depending on the situation. For the rest of us normal people who are still trying to build that confidence in a singular type of putt, I wanted to make this video to allow you to lean into that putt and use it in as many circumstances as possible, and to let a putter change help make your putt even more effective in those circumstances. We've not done a walking cam in a while, so I figure why not close out this way. I hope this video was helpful and that I didn't contradict myself too much throughout it. There are a variety of other putters that you can look at to fill those special circumstance slots that I was talking about that don't have to be a polecat and a pick. If you've got a special putter like a dart that Nate Sexton uses, let me know in the comments below, what do you use in those longer or odd types of putts? As always, I want to say thank y'all for watching and thank you for tuning in. You are absolutely amazing as always. I hope you have an incredible rest of the week, and we'll see you on the next one. But for now, I'm going to leave you with the birdie.